Okay, so thanks everybody for joining us for this Cultivating Careers conversation and advocating training with the National Pork Producers Council. It's important that we have these conversations because there's a gap when it comes to the careers available and the number of graduates that are pursuing careers in agriculture, food, and natural resources. According to USDA, there's nearly 58,000 jobs each year that are available to recent graduates. And there's a gap of around 39% of those that are not being filled with students who have experience in ag, food, and natural resources. So our role in this series is to help connect students with professionals in food, ag, and natural resources. So first, we're going to kick off this session with Janine Van Vark with the National Pork Producers Council with some advocacy training and an introduction to the We Care ethical principles. Thanks for joining us, Janine.
Oh, thank you. I'm looking forward to the next 6 weeks of being with everybody. Today, we're just going to really do a kind of a quick overview about what's going to be occurring the next 6 months, or 6 weeks, excuse me. The We Care is an emblem that we have used for the last 11 years. And when people see that We Care, it's supposed to signal to them, oh, that producer is telling me that he believes or she believes in our ethical principles and that they're supporting them and they want the public to know. Because U.S. pork producers recognize this We Care emblem as an obligation to build and maintain trust with our customers and with the public. We try to promote confidence in what we do and how we do it, and we do that through affirming these 6 principles. So if you can put up the slide, hopefully. This is our We Care emblem that I talk about and that you should see on any material that comes out of National Pork Board, National Pork Council. We all use this on all of our material, and so do the states. So when you see that, that's just a sign for you to know, oh, that's the We Care. That represents their ethical principles, and there are 6. So you're going to see that we have food safety, public health, our people, animal well-being, the environment, and the community, our community. And so those are our 6 ethical principles, and those are the 6 principles that we find all pork producers and anybody working in the pork industry, no matter if they're packers, if they're producers, if they're people like Kayla and I working on staff to help promote. We believe that these 6 principles really make our industry strong. And so over the next 6 weeks, what we're going to do is each week we're going to feature a guest speaker on food safety, someone that their entire job is going to be and works around the ethical principle of food safety. Another speaker will be about animal well-being. And so she'll come on and talk about how she works with animal well-being in our industry. And I think you will just be amazed at the job opportunities around these 6 principles during the next 6 weeks. I think you'll be in awe that you're like, whoa, I didn't know that. I have an interest there. I wasn't thinking about that. So you're going to see us kind of take a step back and really dive into these. Okay, next slide. Our first one's going to be food safety. And food safety is just an obligation to produce safe food. So that one's pretty obvious, you know, food and safety, producing and giving the consumer safe food. Next. Now, here's where we get a little interesting in our food safety. Providing safe, nutritious food is our most important responsibility. And Joe Dykhouse is a young fifth generation producer out of Michigan. And so you'll see us quote numerous producers from all over the United States, but Joe is a very vocal young producer talking about his responsibility, he feels, is to produce and let people know that everything that they produce from their farms is safe. It's also nutritional. Along with that, the reason he can say that is that all of his employees have gone through PQA+. Now, PQA+, of course, I have decided that the pork industry wins the award for the most acronyms. And you will see acronyms for everything and anything you can imagine. I actually put a book together with acronyms. And I don't know, it's probably 26, 27 pages. It's a small book. And I may send that off to all of you because it's amazing the acronyms that we use. But PQA stands for Pork Quality Assurance. And if we look across the United States, 71,000 farmers and farm personnel voluntarily, they don't have to, participate in a PQA+. And this is a test. They take a test, and 71,000 of those producers have passed that test. And once they pass that test, then they are hired, and those are the people that are working in our industry. Is it mandatory? No, you don't have to take PQA, but if you believe in the ethical principles, and if you believe that your people that work for you should have knowledge, then you're going to demand that they all do PQA+, because that's a part of what they believe. 85% of all the pork raised across the United States comes from PQA farms. Now there's 15%, as you see, of people that are not taking that PQA test. Now, who are those people? Those are probably what you're going to find more of, those niche farmers. They aren't taking the PQA because their farms are small, or there's not very many, or it's everybody in the family is taking care of more of the niche. Or you might find a producer that's still keeping pigs outside. He's probably not following all of the PQA because of his circumstances of wanting to farm pigs outside. Can you tell us anything about PQA in Nebraska? Do you have a percentage of how, I mean, are most of your farmers, producers doing PQA?
Yeah, I did not gather the specific data, and I can follow up with that to have our Nebraska specifics. But, you know, much like what we're seeing here in the percentages, a high percentage of our farmers are in Nebraska because of their commitment to do the right thing and to demonstrate that a consumer or a grocery store or a restaurant, whoever that end consumer is, can trust that that pig was cared for and that pork is nutritious and safe.
And a part of taking care of that pig is transporting the pig. So if you are not aware of how we raise pigs, we move pigs numerous times during their life cycle, their short life cycle. So when we move the pigs from barn to barn, or when we move the pigs from market to a packer, we make sure that we hire people that are trained. So the training is called a TQA, and that's transporters that have quality insurance. So they have taken a test. And so let's think of the worst thing that could happen in a snowstorm, and they would get stuck somewhere. This individual has been trained and knows then how to handle pigs, how to unload them, how to load them, how to care for them in case of an emergency, like a snowstorm or getting caught, or, you know, having an accident or getting run off the road. These folks have got training. And so you know that when you put your pigs on a truck with these people, that they are safe because they've gone through the training and they care for the animal. So that's just a small part of what our food safety is about. we'll get into more detail on food safety and kind of touch a little bit on those impossible boogers that are out there right now. We'll talk, so it'll be kind of fun. Next week will be very entertaining with Dan. Dan is in DC, and he'll be giving you kind of an insight to food safety and kind of an overview of what the pork industry is doing with food safety. So, next one. Animal well-being, and again, that's confirming our obligation to protect and promote animal well-being. So again, reading the title, you can about assume what we're going to talk about with that ethical principle. That means that we're taking care of our animals, taking care of our pigs. And so go ahead and switch to the next one. Of course, you have to have good animal care to raise healthy animals, and that then helps produce quality food for our consumers. 97% of our pig farmers have biosecurity standard operating procedures. And so all of them have plans in place to always take care of their pigs. If they lose electricity, the plan goes into place. If there's a fire or a tornado, the plan goes into place. If just the air conditioning quits working, they have a plan that goes into place. So all of our farms have a biosecurity plan that can help them be prepared. Now, also with biosecurity, that means visitors. And so there's always a plan. You can't just walk up to a pig barn and walk in. Doors are probably locked, and you have to be able to call to get in, or you've had to have made an appointment prior. That's not because they're doing something behind those closed doors that's not good. That's just biosecurity. We don't know where you've been. We don't know what kind of germs are all over your body, and we don't want you in there making our pigs sick. So the biosecurity part is just being cautious about making sure our animals stay safe. Today's barns keep animals safe from harm, from predators, preventing feed or water contamination, protecting biosecurity, and providing all the needs of animals at all stages of life. So again, when you would go to a pig farm, chances are you will not be able to get in the barn unless you've made arrangements. And every barn's a little bit different, depending on if you're going into a nursery or if you're going into a finisher, which is the barn where they're getting ready to go to market. So everybody has different biosecurity measures by the age of the pig and by how big the barn is. And so you would have to just visit with that producer. 99% of our PQA certified sites comply with the animal welfare practices, which means that 99% of all the certified sites. Now, a certified site is employees that have gone through the PQA. And so they are complying and doing all the things by the rules that they need to do. And 98% of all of our producers are complying with the best practices, meaning they're daily practicing their sanitation, just all the biosecurity steps that we will see. Again, animal well-being, we'll go into a little bit about the barns, a little bit about what a veterinarian does, what the biosecurity steps are. We'll also go into a little bit about diseases that are out in the world that are not in the United States. African swine fever, we'll touch a little bit on that. We'll talk a little bit about how the COVID-19 virus has affected our barns also. So we will have a veterinarian visiting with us on the animal well-being part. So, all right, next one. Environment. Okay. Environment, of course, is just safeguarding natural resources in all of our practices. So environment, again, is how are we as pig farmers protecting and caring and being actively involved in taking care of our land in wherever and whatever we are doing, whether it's building a new barn, whether it is working with taking care of our water system, what are we doing with the waste, how we're dealing with that. Next slide. One of the things that we're very proud of in the past 6 decades, pig farmers have reduced our environmental footprint. And we are one of the best commodities in taking care of the environment. You will not see these type of numbers with other commodities. Not pointing fingers to anyone in particular, but we do an excellent job, and we have really strived to do this. So you can see that those numbers, 25.1%, we use less water, less energy, and less land. And the less land has really cut back, and that's because we're producing more per square foot. They're not crowded, they're not jammed in a little pen, but if you look at land and the percentages, we do a great job of producing animals in a safe environment with less land. Of course, we try to stress this next point that agriculture accounts for only 8.4 of the greenhouse gas emissions, because we are blamed for so much of the greenhouse gas emissions. And folks, it's not us. It is not agriculture. And we can show that through data that we've collected. But that is just an ongoing battle. 262% more food produced with 2% fewer inputs. And we start getting a little technical with all of that, but what that basically is saying is that pork is produced at a very low cost. We can produce and get you a good pork loin and a good pork chop, and hence the price of pork in the market, in the supermarket. We are producing our food at a very reasonable rate. All right, next one. Public health. To ensure practices that protect the public. And again, that goes, you'll see that a lot of these ethical principles that we believe in tie together they kind of all make a circle. They all kind of touch each other in one way or another. So you will see that as we talk about public health, we're going to talk a little bit more about our antibiotics and things that we are doing to the pigs that people don't realize. Let's go to the slide. This is kind of a fun one. We use antibiotics responsibly, and we have put biosecurity practice in place that protects the food supply. So if we have a sick little pig, we pull him out right away, and we put him in a special area, and we do give him an antibiotic to make him better. But we don't put him back into the same flow that every other pig is in. We monitor how that pig does, and he will not go to market, or he will not move into another pen until all the antibiotics are through his body. So there is no residue of any type of antibiotics in his system. We only use antibiotics when we have to. A lot of times you'll see antibiotics not used as a shot, but through feed, through their water. So antibiotics, when you think of that, don't necessarily think of a shot going into a pig. We try to use other means to medicate the sick ones. 43% drop in use of medically important antivirals of food-producing animals. That just means that 43% of our pigs that we produce do not ever see antibiotics, do not see any type of a medicine going into their system other than the minerals that they require once they're born, like an iron, like babies get, like iron. Pork's grade 8. This has really increased in numbers. Did you know that pork tenderloin is as lean as a skinless chicken breast? Most people don't believe me when I tell them that, but it is. And so trying again to educate the public on saturated fat, total fat, the fat in pork versus the fat in a chicken. You know, it's an upward battle, and it's all about education. And so as we continue to tell people about how healthy the pork is, we also try to tell them it's not only healthy because we haven't medicated our pigs, it's healthy in the meat that is produced. It's not a fat meat. It's a good, healthy meat. Whether you're on a diet or not, it's just good for you. So we'll hear a lot more on our public health also, excuse me, talking about the different cuts. And you may not be familiar with some of those cuts that you see listed. We have tried and tried over the last 10 years, actually, to work on getting a New York pork chop or to get a sirloin pork roast. And you'll see those, and we continue to go back to the old time cuts and the names. It's very hard to educate people and try to promote those new cuts of pork chops. So anyhow, let's keep moving on. Our next one is, our people. We will have an excellent speaker the week that we have our people. Jen Sorensen is our VP of our board and will be president the next year. Jen Sorensen is ahead of all the communications that you see for the company called Iowa Select in Iowa. And she has been with them for numerous years. And Jen has many great programs that they do with their employees and also with communities. So Jen will be an excellent speaker that week to talk to us about how we provide that safe and consistent environment for all the people that we touch and all of the people that work for us and all the people in our community. All right, let's go to the next one. Along with our people, like I say, it's so fun to travel around and go into barns and meet the people that are running the barns and meet the owners and the fun things that people do with their employees, because I find that pork more than beef. We raise cattle, we don't have pigs, but I find the difference between pork and beef is that the pork industry really claims the people that are in their barns and working every day as family, and they treat them like family. And oh no, Johnny's sick, you stay home, we'll cover for you today, I hope he gets better. It's everybody's concerned. It's a much closer knit family in the pork industry than what I feel I see in our beef industry. And I think that's because of the closeness and the size of the facility. But along with that, you'll find that caretakers they take care of training. And if you are taking care of nursery pigs and you've been taking care of finishing pigs that are ready for market, and now you're trying something new, they aren't just going to throw you in there and say, okay, take care of these baby pigs. You're going to go through an intense training. You're going to learn all the things that you're going to need so that you can comply with all the regulations. You're going to do the PQA. You're going to have hands-on experiences before they ever leave you in and working with different types of pigs in your area. What you'll find is that pig farmers will always meet regulations, always follow what is needed, and they'll always leverage resources. So if you're needing to understand something or not understanding something and asking questions, pork producers are great for digging in and asking for help and saying, do you have training for this? I need to train my people. I don't think I'm doing a good job. How do we do this? And so that's where Kayla comes in a lot. That's her, and that's what she does, is help educate pork producers on how to work with their people and care for their animals and how to work with the community. So we'll really be digging in that week with our people topic. The last one we're going to talk about today is community. And community is probably one of the fun ethical principles, if I can say, because the community is reaching out and contributing and giving your community a much better taste of what's going on in that local pork producer's barn, and how that pork producer is so willing to contribute to and make the community better. Let's look at that slide. These are the facts from 2019. So in 2019, 14 million pounds of pork was donated by pork producers across the United States. And that's a lot of pounds. And 57 million servings of pork were donated. And donated in just cash, this is cash. This is not giving of pigs or giving of meat. $217 million was given to charitable causes. And that was just them writing a check and handing cash. So these are numbers that are kind of make you step back. There is a lot of giving in all of your communities that you probably aren't aware of who is doing the giving. Pork producers do not stand on a soapbox and say, I gave. We are trying to break that habit. We're trying to get them to say, it's okay to tell people that you're giving the pork or that you gave the check to help finish off the park in town. You don't always know how much has been given from your local producer. But Operation Main Street is something that's been around for a long time also, as far as a group that you can belong to. There's 1,300 volunteers told the pig farmer story 10,000 times and you can see in 48 states, and 80,000 students participated. So you can see that we're reaching to tell stories to much younger people. We're trying to get you at the college level and also you at the high school level. We get a good participation also from high school students in FFA. So getting people to tell the story, getting people to participate in activities that can help your community. Maybe it's, working with a pork producer and handing out pork burgers, etc. It can be all kinds of things. So Main Street is something that we'll talk a little bit more about, and we're also going to give you the numbers of how much has been donated just during COVID-19. And I think those numbers will shock you. Our producers did not, even though times were tough, they did not discontinue in their giving. They continued to give. So this is a touch of, every week we're going to do something fun. We're going to hear about something. The speakers will be interesting and they are anxious to have questions. So we will be, like I said, each week focusing on a different ethical principle. And then you'll have a really fun homework assignment, something really, really easy to do. And this is your homework assignment for this week. For more We Care information, and to download the full report, which this slide presentation is on there, portcares.org. So my homework request to all of you, and I hate to say homework, but my hope is that you will all at least go to portcares.org and explore it. And what I'm looking for is one thing. I want you to tell me if you feel the website is easy to maneuver, if you found anything interesting, and if you found any things that need to be corrected. It's a brand new website. So we just launched it, and right before COVID-19 is when we launched it. So we really haven't had time to get a lot of feedback. So you folks are kind of my guinea pig. So I would like for you to explore portcares.org and let me know if you think it's easy to run or what you liked about it. If you didn't like something about it, that's what we're looking for. I'm looking actually for the negatives. Tell me what you don't like about it. And then we're going to kind of take all those things and we're going to have to sit down and look at it again. So any questions for this time?
Janine, what is some of the feedback that you anticipate?
I don't know that it's really easy to maneuver through that. I think there's too many clicks. So maybe I'm just not a clicky person, but if I can't get there in 2 clicks, there's too many clicks. So I'm looking to see, how long are you going to spend to find the information you want? How easy is it? Is the search, if you type in how many pork producers are there, does the answer come up right away for you or tell you where to go? Or do you have to click, click, click? So I think that we might have a little click problem, but if it doesn't bother anyone else, it's just my age.
Okay. And I don't know why I'm saying to me. Of the upcoming weeks, which should every student plan to participate? I mean, I want them to participate in everything, but give your best pitch for the best week of We Care.
Well, I think that your assignment or the ask that we have of you will be under community. And so when we do community, you will find that there will be an ask of you. And we're going to ask you to do something for us. And you might have to work with Nebraska Pork to get that ask done, but we will ask you to do something. So it might be best that you be a part of the community week.
Great. Well, thank you, Janine, for joining us and for helping us to kick off this advocacy training and really our first introduction to We Care as a group. Thank you so much. We're going to transition now to our Cultivating Careers conversation. And I will just start with beauty first. So Brianna, you're here with us as mostly new to Nebraska. So what I'd ask you to do first is just kind of give your own personal introduction, and then we can transition then into like what you do, your educational background, and so forth.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here, and I guess virtually, but to be a part of this. So I'll give a really brief background, and then you can tell me what you want me to go more in depth in. But as she said, my name's Brianna Buseman. I am a recent hire to University of Nebraska-Lincoln in the Animal Science Department, working as the Youth Meat Animal Extension Assistant Professor. So it's kind of a mouthful, but my current duties at UNL are to do a lot of youth outreach. So events like this, talking to different groups. Hopefully, once things open back up, I'll be able to get into some classrooms and work with students that way to promote meat and meat production. And along with that, I'm also doing some academic advising, club advising, and will be coaching the meats judging team.
So what I'd like you to do next is to share your journey to get here, and that probably includes some involvement before college, during college, and after, academically and outside.
Awesome. Yep, absolutely. So I actually did not grow up being involved in the pork industry. I grew up on a farm in South Dakota. My family raises cattle. It's a cow-calf operation. And then we also have sheep on the side that we don't really tell people about that. But I was really involved in 4-H growing up. My school did not have an FFA program. And so 4-H was really where I got a lot of my excitement for continuing on in the ag industry. And so because of that, I went on to South Dakota State University, where I received my undergrad degree in animal science and ag business. And so it was at SDSU where I got my first introduction to meat science. I snuck my way into an upper level meat science class my freshman year, and I loved it. And during my time at SDSU, I also did a couple internships with Ag United for South Dakota, which is an advocacy group in the state that is a coalition of the different commodity groups. And so the pork producers were part of that, as well as the Beef Council, the Corn Board, the Soybean Board. And that group's goal was to do consumer outreach and consumer relations. And that was something I really enjoyed. I really enjoyed the public relations side of the industry. And to me, meat science was really an awesome collaboration of needing to understand all aspects of animal science. Nutrition of the animal impacts the meat quality, the genetics impact the meat quality, as well as, handling on the farm to the table. All of those things can really impact your final eating experience. And it's also a great way to connect with consumers. Not everybody has spent time in a pig barn, but most people have had bacon with their eggs. And so through their stomach is a great way to connect with people. And so that's what drew me into meat science. And so because of that, I took a lot of courses in my undergrad just to get a good foundation. And from there, I decided it was time to get out of my little corner of South Dakota. And so I went to University of Idaho to pursue my master's, which was in animal science with a meat science emphasis. So my research background is in steak tenderness. And another great thing with meat science is you get to eat your research. Not a lot of areas that you get to do that in. So really enjoyed that experience to be able to see agriculture from a different view than just the corn and soybean fields of the Midwest. It was awesome to be in an area where within a 45-minute to an hour drive, I could be in onion fields, asparagus fields, wheat fields, peas, lentils, things that we just don't see here. And also my favorite thing I got to do in grad school, I have to put in a plug for this, was being part of the Meat Processors Association, got to go and judge a processed meats contest. So I got to try like 40 different types of fresh sausage, and just a great experience being able to do that. And so now I'm back here in the Midwest. I'm happy to be here and excited for the opportunities that'll be available at University of Nebraska and to help that meat science program grow.
Great. So I love sausage. So I think I would have been.
It was heaven. It was great.
Excited, but so unequipped.
And so, I mean, I tell you what, I learned more about brats and hot dogs in about an hour time period than I ever thought I could have in my entire life, but it was great.
So although you're new in your role here at the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, I want you to just like maybe in a sentence or two, summarize your job description and then go through a couple bullet points on either like, this is what I do or this is what I plan to do because I'm evolving and growing this program.
Okay. So the main point, I guess, for my job is to develop youth programs and do youth outreach, as well as coaching the meats judging team. And so kind of bullets under that, I will help with some of the events that are currently held by University of Nebraska, we just a week or two ago held the FFA CDE or meats judging CDE online. So spent a few hours taking pictures of pork and beef products for that. And then I'll help with the PACE judging events, and as well as just some of the other youth outreach. There's a lot of acronyms with that as well. I'm still learning them, but so a lot of the events that Nebraska already has to offer. And then hopefully for myself, programs I'd like to develop. I'd like to develop some sort of meat speak contest. So actually a public speaking event that's focused on meats production. That's something I would like to see, as well as being able to develop programs to actually go into schools to talk about food safety, meat quality, and then factors from farm to fork that can impact your eating experience.
Awesome. Okay, so then kind of in that same realm about what you're growing and evolving as a young professional, what advice do you have for other young professionals entering the workforce?
Oh, that's a great question.
Especially in your field.
Yeah, so, you know, you get a lot of weird looks when you tell people that you're going into meat science. Nobody ever knows really what to say, I don't think. But, you know, one of the things in the email that you sent me when you asked me to talk today was talking about, you know, knowledge and skills and things you need to have. And the big thing with meat science and in a lot of careers, I think it's not necessarily what you know, but it's the attitude that you have and your work ethic. And so for me, one of the biggest pieces of advice that I would give is don't be afraid to step out of your comfort zone and to make mistakes. You know, I had said I didn't have any meat science experience until I did my undergrad. Well, I didn't really have much for cutting experience or chemistry lab experience until I went to do my master's. And so the first day walking onto the harvest floor, you know, with undergrads who had been doing this for a couple years, and they were quick and they knew what they were doing. And it was intimidating, and it really is. But the more that you put yourself in those situations where maybe you are uncomfortable, maybe it is a step out of your comfort zone, you grow and you learn and you just become better at it. So much so that, you know, a couple months ago, we were actually able to harvest and butcher a pig at home because I had that experience and we could do it safely and effectively, and something that I never thought I'd be able to do. And if I hadn't stepped out of my comfort zone to be able to learn that, we never would have been able to do that.
That's great advice. I often say it's only 20 seconds of bravery,
Mm-hmm.
But I know that it's 20 seconds many times over to
Yep.
get to that point. So, so that's great advice. So what would you describe as like the job outlook for the future, whether you're looking specifically in like this academic setting or more generally in meat science
Mm-hmm.
overall?
Well, people still have to eat. So meat science is only growing. And honestly, as you were going through all those different points, Janine, the meat industry and careers within the meat industry fall right into those lines with ethics. There's positions similar to mine in a university setting where you're going to be doing extension or teaching or research. Working in the industry in research and development. If you walk down the freezer aisle at your grocery store, all of those products that have meat in them, they've had a meat scientist or a food scientist that have done a lot of research to make sure that that's a safe, high quality product. Animal health, you know, as I've said before, live animal handling and experience, that translates into what that product ends up being. And with that, you know, I can go on and on of industry jobs, of government jobs, technology, the amount of technology that you guys see in your barns. There's that in the meat industry too. A lot of stuff that's automated, a lot of Even packaging of the product is incredible, the amount of engineering that goes into that. And so jobs in the meat industry in general, whether you're studying meat science, animal science, ag engineering, they're plentiful and they will continue to be.
That's good to hear. And so in trying to be transparent and share a thorough picture, could you please talk about compensation? I think that most students, when I graduated, my parents, the only advice they said was make sure you have insurance. And so I think that this was something that would help equip our recent graduates if you could talk about compensation.
Yeah, so insurance benefits, very important. That's going to be my advice with this is, it's not just what your salary is. A lot of times there's things that go along with it in the benefits package that can cover it. But in the food industry, I can't necessarily tell you numbers because it is going to be ranging depending on your level of experience and what type of position you get into. But they're well-paying jobs, even jobs starting as a meat cutter that are more the hourly type. They're well-paying, but it is a very skilled labor type of job. So the more that you know, the more experience that you have will go into that. And just remember that, if you're fresh out of college or even starting a job in the meat industry out of high school, you're probably not going to be making the top salary that you're imagining. But there's also in this industry a lot of room for growth and areas for you to move up the ladder in whatever industry you go into. But one more thing that I'll comment on that as far as university, like going school costs and graduate degree costs. So there's a ton of scholarships out there, specifically in the ag industry and private sector, as well as different organizations or ag industry organizations that do scholarships. So apply. And then grad school in the sciences, a lot of them have assistantship programs. So they'll actually be funding for the research that you do that can cover the cost of your tuition as well as provide a stipend. So I actually didn't have to pay anything to go to grad school. I was paid to be a research assistant. And so in animal science, that's a big draw and something that you should definitely look into if you pursue that.
That is great advice. I don't think that we hear that often enough, as an opportunity after undergrad. It oftentimes is presented as, more debt or the plan B because your ideal position wasn't available. So I appreciate that you presented it in a different light. So thank you. Yeah. We're going to transition now to John Csukker. And John, I'd ask that you kind of follow some of this same format. If you'd give a little bit of a personal introduction first, then I'd be glad to help step you through the rest of the conversation.
I turned my camera on, so I hope I didn't scare you. You start with the beauty, I'm going to end with the beast. So try to keep it somewhat civil here. But no, my name is John Csukker. I'm the environmental service manager for the Maschhoffs here. I take care of the environmental permitting and compliance for our farms in Nebraska, Northwest Missouri, South Wyoming, and then I also help in Iowa. So I've been in the industry for 29 years. Grew up in a farm in southern Minnesota near Fairfax. So we can see the Christensen Farms feed mill lights on top on the east side of Sleepy Eye. My mom grew up close to Schwartz Farm on the west side of Sleepy Eye. So I've been doing this for a while, so I think I'm starting to get the hang of it. But been down in Nebraska for 29 years. And currently the last 10 years, 11 years was with the Maschhoffs.
Okay, great. So now, John, what I'd like you to do is just give like a 1 or 2 sentence description of your job. And then let's talk through some bullet points of like what that is and what that means to the role that you provide in supporting farms all across your region. Okay.
I take care of the environmental permitting and compliance and safety. So I guess what that means is I make sure all our farms, there are a lot of regulations on our hog farms here. Just ask any pig farmer. or any livestock for that matter, if you get a certain size. So make sure we have applied for all the permits at state, federal, and if there's anything local. And make sure you stay in compliance with record keeping, all the agronomy. I'm a certified crop advisor. Make sure all that is in compliance so we can land apply our manure at agronomic rates for the uptake of the crop. I am also in my role too, I also take care of help. I do AutoCAD drawings too. I self-taught myself AutoCAD and was able to help on our project teams. I can't do all the three-dimensional stuff, but I can get you a set of construction blueprints. So it's just a lot of day-to-day things. I'm transitioning also too. I see myself talking more and more to farmers. So if some of you out there have the gift of gab and want to deal with farmers on a day-to-day basis, raising hogs and trying to work out manure application agreements, you'll be talking to a lot of farmers.
Can I ask a question? John, do you have to go to county meetings and with help with the permits for Maschhoffs and new farms?
Yes, I do. As needed. Right now we're expanding in the on the production partner, our contract finishing farms. That's one of the things that I really liked about the Maschhoffs coming from the other folks that I used to work for. They really push the contract finishing model, and I do help there if need be. So yeah, I sat through meetings where there was 300 people behind you that think you're gonna blow up the world with a hog barn, and so you really have to put your sales hat on too, and try to make sure that you give the people, the decision makers, the right information too. So it's a little bit of everything. It's rare to have the same thing happen to you on a day-to-day basis.
Well, I think that that's a good point. When I am trying to wrap my head around all of the things that you've experienced over 29 years, like it becomes very obvious that there's a very technical part. And then there's this very, most people call soft skills, but I think it's pretty essential with building relationships and building trust. So like, how do you kind of manage all of these different things, and how have you evolved your skills as a professional over a 29-year career?
Well, I originally started with Sand Livestock Systems. So if anybody remembers Chuck Sand, I started them 29 years ago with them, and I started as project manager building these farms, and just kind of evolved into the environmental portion of it because I was the new guy and nobody else wanted to do the environmental permits. So I guess if you're the new person there, don't hesitate. I think it was mentioned before, don't hesitate to step outside your comfort zone and start applying yourself in ways you didn't think of. I mean, I graduated a 4-year degree in electronics and I worked for a hog farmer. And so that's one thing, I guess, I didn't want to limit myself to just certain things here. I don't know how I want to put it, but I was willing to try different things. Like I said, I didn't take a class for AutoCAD. I just started playing with it, and it's just something that I saw a need for it, and went on forward with that. In addition to a certified crop advisor, I saw a need for that, as help to deal with the farmers and land apply. Maybe someday you need to be a certified crop advisor in some of these states in order to prepare a nutrient management plan. I had the opportunity through the Maschhoffs to take that, so I took it. I'm also a groundwater monitoring technician, because some of our farms also have groundwater monitoring around their requirements too. So I'm licensed to that. I'm also licensed as a Class 2 wastewater treatment plant operator because I drive by a lake twice a day, and I have some buddies in the industry that live on that lake, and said, you need somebody to manage that. They asked me to manage their facility so I can run a city sewer plant too. I guess I put all these things out there. Oh, I'm also Operation Main Street speaker too. I put all the, yes, exactly. I put that all out there because you want to make yourself valuable. When I wasn't first in college, 35 years ago. Yes. And I say focus.
I'm exactly 35 years old.
That's right. See, I'm 20 years older than you. And so it's been around for a while, but when I was in college, they say focus on one thing or whatever. The industries and just people in general have evolved so much that I think you need to be multifaceted. You might be willing to know, say, I can go to this person because I know they'll try it. You always want to understand who your customer is. In my case, my customer is the hog farms. The people at the barn that raises the pigs are the most important people we have in our company. And without them, you don't need permits, you don't need agronomy, you don't need land application or anything like that. So I try to make myself as valuable as possible.
Well, I'd say that that is a pretty impressive way, which demonstrates too the type of character that you have and the internal motivation. So one thing that I'd ask you to talk about now, John, is your thoughts on leadership and, as a young professional and as an evolved professional, how do you grow in that leadership capacity? Because there's no tests necessarily.
It's not a test or anything like that either. I mean, to grow like that in the leadership, I mean, you always have to challenge yourself, step outside your comfort zone, I guess. Just, in the last several years, whatever, I stepped out and became a little bit more active in the pork producers at the national level and local level. To evolve as leadership, I get into some of these rooms now. I'm one of the oldest ones in the room, so I see myself as someone being younger 20 some years ago, as trying to learn, ask questions, or whatever like that. And now I'm at the point where you got to be humble all the time, but it's to a point where I'm kind of like the teacher trying to explain where it come from or whatever. There's in this industry right now, I've seen things come full circle on several items. And so what is evolving as a leader, just always try to, like I say, my position, I guess I would, like I mentioned earlier, just be more teaching and coaching portion of it, if that answers your question.
Yeah. So what is one example of something that's come full circle in your time in different roles with different companies?
Well, I think just some of the biosecurity practices we've implemented. We're doing some things, and then it kind of went away with it. Now we're coming back because there's maybe new research out there showing that some of the biosecurity is working better. I was trying to think of some other ones out there that have come full circle. Just some of the feeding systems, the ventilation systems, just kind of like they say, history repeats itself somewhat. And I should note too that, I mean, all my experience is on the outside of the barn. We need a lot of production people inside the barn, but we also need a lot of people outside too. The non-hands-on people as far as with the pigs, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. And that's part of the reason why I wanted to include that is, through the evolution, we're raising pigs better, and that comes in lots of ways, improvement or continuous improvement in lots of other areas. And, technology inside a barn, is one great big umbrella for all of the things that fall under for environmental control for the fans and the water and the feed. So I am so thankful that you shared that kind of full circle and some of the evolution in that way. Because I do think that there are opportunities that these students would be interested in pursuing outside of the barn, but
without, the animal science, whatever.
Yes. Yes.
We as a company, we probably have 20 IT people. So if you want to be, so you're a computer person that likes a computer or whatever. We need the industry needs even more probably because of all the automation and electronics that are out there. My nephew is a junior, partway through his junior year as a computer science engineer, and is like, don't be hesitant of anything in ag. We also land application. We need irrigation. We have land apply most of our manure through pivot systems here in Nebraska and Wyoming. Mechanics, we have a fleet of trucks and pickups, and so there's 4-year degrees and 2-year degrees. There's a lot of opportunity if you and no experience is necessary as far as being able. I never worked on a hog farm. We don't care. If you got the experience and the desire, we can teach you whatever you need. That's probably the most important to come out here too. And mentioning some of the compensation, whatever like that too. Maybe I'm unique or not, whatever, but I started, and don't hesitate to always start on the lower end of it. But in 5 years, I doubled my salary when I first started.
Wow.
So it's out there. You just got to bust, you what.
Bust your bacon?
Bust your bacon, that
Or
too.
your ham, I guess, would be more
That'd be more right,
anatomically
correct.
correct.
That'd be a more correct area.
Would it be physiologically correct, the ham? Yes. Okay. So to wrap up kind of with your series, John, or your introduction, job outlook, compensation, anything else that you'd like to add with that? Because I think that environment and sustainability is only going to matter more to farmers and consumers.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, just like as mentioned earlier, we all have to eat. And so with that comes all the support groups out there, the engineers, the agronomists, chemists, everything out there that supports feed mills, operations, all that. So that looks good too. We're going through, as an industry, we're going through a rough spot right now with the prices and backup of hogs, whatever. But once we can work through that, it's gonna be good on the other side. So I think the outlook is good. You may have to start a little bit lower in some cases as far as some of the compensation, but the opportunity for growth here is unparalleled. We have some people out there that are directors of production, been in the industry for about 20 some years, and the gentleman I'm thinking of, he started out power washing barns, and now he's a director of production. I mean, and living out in rural Nebraska, cost of living, the safety, there's a lot to be said to be living out here, especially going through what we have here as a country. So I think the outlook is great. I think the jobs are going to be plentiful. The technology is just going to keep increasing. We need that technical expertise and people that aren't afraid to go in and get the job done.
Mm-hmm. So I'd like to kind of wrap up each of our sessions with kind of a similar theme. Throughout the year-long experience in the Pork Mentorship Program, our students are participating in some leadership training that's helping them better understand their own personalities, as well as working with others' unique personalities, and then also understanding their interests. And so, some of that interest identification can help in career exploration. So I'll ask either one of you to answer either one of the questions, but between you both, you need to answer the questions. So one question is, how would you describe your personality? And then the other question is, tell me about your interests. So whomever would like to answer which question? Yeah,
I'm stroking my goat piece to push it off a bit here, but I guess I can start if you want. So it was the personality.
Yes.
I think I can be. I wear my heart on my sleeve a little bit. My name is John, and sometimes they call me on it. I think I'm almost too honest sometimes. I don't always have a filter on my mouth. And not as far as saying bad things about people, but if there's something that should be done or want to try or something like that, I can do that sometimes. I always have to adjust who the crowd I'm talking to. There's some of the detailed things that I do. I'm a very detailed person. Even at 54 years old, I'm still pretty detailed. And so sometimes people have to say, hey, John, I'm not following you here, buddy. You're going to have to slow this stuff down, but, because I've been doing it for so long. And so I always have to understand the crowd you're talking to. And what was the second part of the question? I forgot already. See, that does one thing does slip too a little bit.
Tell me about your interests.
My interests. I like running. I can't run as much as I used to. I used to do could work all day and then run 10 miles at night. I did the market to market relay with some nephews. So we did that 85-mile run. I can go walk and run now. How's that? But I do like that. I do like hanging out at home here. I've been kind of doing a few things at our house, and I do like the woodworking portion of it. The house I'm at here that we've probably built about 60-70% of the house ourselves. That was 20 years ago too. So always something to do out there. my other interests are just would like to get a couple other hobbies started here, but one of them near term would be some more golf. But golf is a 4-letter swear word some days, so I just don't have a lot of time right now for that. But kind of just some of those things. It's pretty basic. So
thank you for sharing, Brianna. Sure. You can start with your interests or tell us about your personality. How would you describe your personality?
Well, as far as interest goes, I would say what's not on the list is running. that's on the list.
You can't tell that I would, but yeah, I
could. Interest. So I would say my main interest, I really enjoy playing the guitar and reading and spending time with my family now, especially that I'm closer to actually be able to do so. And we just added the first nephew to our family. So that's been a fun addition. And then, yeah, just spending, I guess, time with family and friends and loved ones. And then describing my personality, I would say that I'm a pretty easygoing person. It takes a lot to get me either super, super excited about something, or on the flip side of that, really upset and sad about things. I tend to be pretty even keel, tend to have pretty dry humor, I would say, and fairly easy to get along with. I don't know, pretty open to talking to people.
Unless you went to SDSU, I did too.
Go Jacks, go big, go blue.
I can't believe I didn't make that connection.
I'm in Nebraska. I'm in Nebraska now, though. So go Big Red.
Go Big
Go
Red.
Huskers.
Well, so none of the. I wasn't looking for one specific, characteristic, but I'm thankful for what you shared, that most of your interests did not overlap with how you described your job. Because as people, a job is something that we do for 8 hours a day, and we are whole beings that, thrive in different ways. And so I'm thankful for the reality that you shared, that you had interests outside of your work and things that fill your bucket, so to speak. Because I think young professionals can be disillusioned in some ways with consuming all of their interests and free time with trying to fit in that kind of professional space or what that might look like. So I am so thankful for the honesty and the humor too. John, you're a good guy. I would never have said Beauty and the Beast. I would have said Beauty and the Beard.
I had the full beard, remember that? Kind of shaved the sleeves off the sweater, face sweater.
Yeah, the season, it's hot. I don't know how you live with that.
It's just compensation for up on top.
But what I would conclude with is really thank you both for sharing your career experiences. And Janine, thank you for kicking off our advocacy training. We will be back next week with a little bit different look with some resume tips from the University of Nebraska-Lincoln, because your resume still matters even during a global pandemic. People are still hiring. Maybe some of the strategies for looking for jobs look differently. So we'll talk about that as well. And then we'll follow up with, I don't have it off the top of my head, who will be joining us from NPPC next week? Dan Kovic?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. So thank you again. You should expect some follow-up, at least thank you notes from students. And I look forward to keeping connected with you all individually. So TGIF, everybody.
That's right.
Thank you.
It's 3:30.
Bye.